Hey everyone, so today I'm here with Jess Seeley from the Jewish Organizing Institute and Network, or Join for Justice. How are you today, Jess?
I'm doing great. Thanks, Jordan.
So, Join for Justice is building a powerful field of Jewish leaders capable of effectively organizing for justice both inside and outside Jewish communities in the US. One thing that you all take really seriously is the fact that Jewish leaders shouldn't just be organizing within Jewish community. Can you tell me a bit about why that's so important to you all?
So a lot of our programs have intersections and partnerships both within and outside of the Jewish community, such as our Jews of Color Organizing Fellowship that launches this month. And that's super intentional. We organize both inside and outside of Jewish communities because, in the words of Emma Lazarus, until we are free, none of us are free. Our destinies are bound up as one. So, as Jews, we feel like we have an obligation to work on something larger than ourselves. And as organizers, we know more practically that there isn't enough power to do this work on our own. To see and do actual change making towards justice, we need multiple communities working together to get those collective wins. Um, and for myself, I was adopted to a Jewish family and am a Jew, but I largely grew up outside of synagogue life. And yet I have always found myself drawn to issues around justice throughout my career. So, ranging from food justice to environmental justice and to racial justice. I've really felt like being able to co lead alongside my co executive director, Mayor Lakin, in a Jewish social justice organization has really felt like a homecoming of sorts around like the intersections of race and organizing and just how I want to show up Jewishly for justice. So that's been also a really beautiful experience too.
Yeah, so when you all talk about sort of having that impact with other communities beyond yourself, something big like you guys are national. That's like you're a big organization. You've been around for 20 years. In your 2022 grant report, I think you all mentioned that you've trained over 8,000 Jewish leaders and community organizers through your programs to date. Um, and with that sort of impact, our steering committee was obviously very excited about funding your work. Now, one of the initiatives they were particularly excited about funding was the We Are Turning initiative, which encompasses the Jews of Color Organizing Fellowship you just mentioned, and the Sea Change initiative. So let's start with the Sea Change initiative, which is a congregational organizing tool. Can you tell me a little bit about the need that this is filling?
Sure. So this is the Sea Change program in its first 2 years. The Sea Change program, which stands for Study, Engage, Act, SEA, involved 7 congregations and over 100 individuals in the greater DC area that were committed towards the deep work of transformation towards racial justice and organizing. Right now, we're launching the third cohort in Northern Virginia that will include 3 synagogues, and we're super excited about that. It's led by our superpowered team of expert trainers at Join, and over a period of 6 months, this program helps support the training of clergy and lay leader teams from these congregations, engage in both virtual training and in-person training on racial equity and organizing issues. So they also will lead teams to assess their own congregations' inclusiveness. They'll build relationships with local community-based organizations led by folks of color and work across congregations and denominations to act together for justice. This is a really exciting program that we're doing as part of the We Are Turning initiative, which I'll share more about shortly. But this is Sea Change is a truly impactful program on many levels that has been exciting to watch in just a few years. For one thing, it engages all types of members of typically white, dominantly white congregations to learn about racial justice and community organizing, from lay leaders to rabbis to folks who were involved maybe in nominal ways up until recently in their synagogue life. It also provides this thoughtful structure and scaffolding to the program that really activates and empowers congregants to organize and strategize and then activate these campaigns and actions that last long after the program concludes. We really pride ourselves that Sea Change is not a one-off CEI training or a once and done type of fellowship program that like really has lasting effects within internally in the synagogue as well as externally in the community. Towards that, the like inter cohort magic and engagement. There's learning between the cohorts that we previously had, and also an eagerness for graduating cohorts to be able to engage with previous ones and share participation and engagement in current and new projects, as well as collective actions. And then internally, it really holds a mirror up to how the Jewish institution can become a more warm and welcoming space for Jews of color through strategies and initiatives like racial equity audits and establishing greeter programs weekly at the synagogue for Shabbat services. And finally, like externally, it strategically partners them with other community organizations, congregations, and social justice partners to fight for things like recent cohorts have been fighting for affordable housing, which they've had some recent wins with in the Chevy Chase, Maryland area.
I have some friends in the Chevy Chase, Maryland area. I'm sure they'd love to hear about that.
Hey.
Um, but one thing that's really interesting about that, right, is you're talking about sort of like you said, mostly white Jewish congregations, a lot of people who are kind of just stepping into might be kind of like their first experience stepping into fighting for racial socioeconomic justice in a more active way. And that's a different community than you're working for with the other part of the initiative, which is the JOC Organizing Fellowship. Can you tell me a little bit more about your vision for that?
Yes, I could talk about this fellowship all day long, and some days I do. So this is really our Jews of Color Organizing Fellowship really zooms into how this program is focused on cultivating the field of Jewish organizers of color by supporting individual JOCs in their organizing journeys. We are super excited that later this very month of May, we are launching our inaugural cohort, which will be 20 folks in a year-long fellowship. Yep, where they are placed in paid livable wage jobs. It will serve folks in the Bay Area of California, New York City, and Chicago, as well as a small virtual sub cohort as well, because we just couldn't say no. We also hope that by doing this fellowship, JOC organizers will learn how to be effective change makers, how to deepen their connections to Jewish wisdom, and to be in community and to show up authentically in a solely JOC space together. Over time, our vision is that we will help cultivate and broaden the field of JOC organizers through this program and really help provide pathways to leadership. Future JOC organizers, we really hope long term we'll see JOCs more strongly represented in the field and be more likely to see themselves in the field, mentored by JOC organizers in the field, and hopefully have that sense of belonging from the start of their organizing careers. And as just a side note, this has been a program we've been working on for a very long time. And there's definitely been times when our team has felt so wrapped up in supporting my brilliant program team in the building and recruitment of JOCOF that I think sometimes I've been caught up so much in the minutia and details down to like, what will the retreat Shabbat service be like? And what color notebooks are we ordering? Because we really care about creating a transformative experience for JOC organizers that it's honestly sometimes easy to lose sight of the bigger picture and the vision and sort of like the forest through the trees. But I sat down just like 2 days ago and did a deep dive on the actual compilation of our cohort, which we're going to announce very soon, I promise. And I just wanted to share that the diversity of this particular inaugural cohort really gave me like hugely humbling pause. From the racial identity to age, class, gender, disability, types of experience in the field, and also the diversity of our placement organizations. The diversity is really above and beyond what I've seen in a lot of programs to date. And for many folks, this will also be we've learned through the interview and application process that this will be their first JOC centered experience, much less their first JOC organizing centered experience. And that's really powerful. It made me really proud, so proud to be part of Join, to be co-leading this organization of this team, and just mostly excited for this cohort to get to meet each other in the coming weeks in person to kick it off.
Well, this interview just sort of off that is going to go out in May, right? And in this month's
Yeah.
newsletter, as you know, we're featuring Asian Jewish voices for AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. As an Asian Jewish organizer who's wearing a phenomenally Asian shirt uh, and leading an organization with a JOC Organizing Fellowship, can you tell us a little bit about why organizing by racial identity is such an effective way to build power?
Yeah, that's such a great question, Jordan. Thank you. Yeah, I feel like there's a couple things. Okay, first of all, I think it creates power within us as JOC organizers, both individually as ourselves, but also collectively together. What I'm finding is that organizing in spaces solely for JOCs who have all faced continued and persistent impacts of oppression and racism. It's critically important to be building mutual trust, support, and ultimately collective power together. I also feel like in JOC spaces, there's an unspoken, although sometimes spoken, shared understanding that showing up authentically as our full selves in organizing spaces, in particularly dominantly white organizing spaces, is both extremely hard and yet also very necessary. I feel strongly that we don't live single issue lives, and also we don't carry single identities. I can identify as an organizer, as a Jew, as a Korean American adoptee, and to be able to learn and support other folks who share similar intersections of their own, both professional, their Jewish, and their racial identities. It both feels like a true gift, and honestly, a damn shame that there aren't yet more spaces to do this work together.
Awesome. That's beautiful, and I appreciate you sharing that. So one thing that I think, just sort of looking back at the full scope of Join's program, the We Are Turning initiative, is you're organizing people who are ready for racial justice, socioeconomic justice, really probably all kinds of justice at different levels and in different places, different contexts. Organizers, people who are just in congregations.
Yep.
What is it you hope your work with Join will bring forth into the world through all of
Yeah. Again, super great question. Thank you for that. Join's approach and strategy for our racial justice work, which we developed in our 2019 strategic plan, involves this initiative called We Are Turning. It's a dual prong approach. And we've really tried to ground all of our racial justice work towards this thinking that on the one end, we want to be able to create and center JOC voices, spaces, and trainings to support that individual leadership development. And through programs like our Jews of Color Organizing Fellowship, a Developing Clergy of Color Fellowship, really thinking about how some of our JOC specific cohorts of our online community organizing course, Don't Fetch Organize, ways in which we can really center those individual spaces and needs. And the other prong of it, because the burden should not be solely on the individual JOC to shift the system, is how we're trying to shift the institution and dominantly white spaces themselves. So the other prong of that We Are Turning strategy is really systems based of how are we also helping push the needle, improve the readiness, thinking about how programs like the Sea Change initiative that work in dominantly white Jewish synagogues and institutions are helping white folks along their journey and be able to like really ready them for spaces that decenter whiteness and really support spaces of belonging for Jewish organizers of color and clergy of color. And towards that, so we're doing the individual and the systems-based approach, but also we are intentionally striving for a broad reach. So we feel that working towards racial justice requires a broad spectrum of people who are both ready, for those who are both like, I am ready and I'm ready to ask the question and do the work, as well as people who are in the middle, they're figuring things out, or for people who are at like the early stages of their organizing journeys and are just trying to figure out how to harness that energy, that outrage, that grief, and that sadness into tangible, organized skills and efforts. So we hope we provide the training and support to hone in those skills to apply to these critical movements. We also really feel that the diversity of positionality in how we train a vast audience from Jewish clergy and seminary students to young and seasoned organizers, as well as the curious folks just attending one of our public webinars or Don't Fetch Organize. We really believe that true culture change requires a diversity of positionality in many ways.
Yeah, that's beautiful, both as like an effective organizational theory of change, and I'm sure as a personal ambition for, the world you want to bring into existence. So, thank you so much for your time and the work you're doing for our movement. If someone's looking to get involved with Join, follow along, become a paid Jewish organizer at one of these amazing fellowships, where should they go?
They should definitely go to our website at joinforjustice.org. We also will be posting, there's opportunities to sign up for upcoming cohorts of our Don't Fetch Organize community organizing online class. It's a space where you hear about upcoming events, including one next month around Jewish wisdom for Juneteenth, and also just more information on the launch of our Jews of Color Organizing Fellowship later this month.
Amazing. Well, everyone who's watching this, go check them out. And thank you so much, Jess. Have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you, Jordan.
Bye now.